1,000 miles of coming. Yes, I've worn blisters on my heels, trying to find me something better here on the streets of Bakersfield. Hey, you don't know me, but you don't like me. Say you care less how I feel, but how many of you that sit and judge me ever walk the streets of Bakersfield? Time in San Francisco, I spent a night there in the can. Lived through this drunk man in my jail cell. I took $15 from that man, left him my watch and my old house key. Don't want folks thinking that I'd steal. Then I thanked him as I was leaving, and I headed out for Bakersfield. Hey, you don't know me, but you don't like me. Say you care less how I feel, but how many of you that sit and judge me ever walk the streets of Bakersfield? Hey, you don't know me, but you don't like me. Say you care less how I feel, how many of you that sit and judge me ever walk the streets of Bakersfield? How many of you that sit and judge me ever walk the streets of Bakersfield?
Wasted days and wasted nights I have left for you behind, for you don't belong to me. Your heart belongs to someone else. Why should I keep loving you when I know that you're not true? And why should I call your name when you're the blame for making me blue? Don't you remember the day that you went away and left me? I was so lonely, praying for you only, my love. Why should I keep loving you when I know that you're not true? And why should I call your name when you're the blame for making me blue? Don't you remember the day that you went away and left me? I was so lonely, praying for you only, my love. Why should I keep loving you when I know that you're not true? And why should I call your name when you're to blame for making me blue?
other became a car. A car skidded into the rain, making the last little one to say, one more light goes out in America. A young girl tosses a coin in the wishing well. She hopes for a heaven while for her there's just this hell. She gave away a life to become somebody's wife. Another wish unanswered in America. People having so much faith, die too soon while all the rest are made. We write a song that no one sings on a cold black stone where a lasting peace will finally break. Sunlight plays upon my window pane. I wake up to a world that's still the same. My father said to be strong, that a good man can never do wrong. In a dream I had last night in America, a wise man was telling stories to me about the places he had been to and the things that he had seen. A quiet voice was singing something to me, an angel song about the home of the brave and this land here of the free. One time, one night in America. Time, one night in America. Time, one night in America.
said I'd never want your love again. You showed up tonight and proved me wrong. Things I said I'd never do, since you and I were through. But here I am, back in your arms again. I heard from someone that you were back in town. I knew I couldn't stay away. No matter how. Hello. Hello, welcome to Grown Up Story Time 188. Okay, first, it seems like maybe some people might need some seats. It looks like there's some empty seats here, is that correct? Raise your hand if there are empty seats next to you. Excellent, thank you. Thank you for this housekeeping moment we are doing, I appreciate it. Okay, and we're gonna do another housekeeping moment here. If I need all readers to pay attention to the stage right now. We're gonna do a little demo of how to adjust the mic stand. I'm gonna talk about it while Amanda's gonna do it because that's how it works. This is how you adjust the mic stand. All readers, take your time getting comfortable up here. It's very important you feel comfortable on this stage. There's a thing here you can twist. This thing here goes up and down. Excellent. Excellent tutelage from Amanda. There's another thing you can twist here. Very good. All right, there's several things you can twist and then move other things up and down. Another thing, anchor it with your foot. Use your hands to pull it up and down to your desired height. Readers, do this when you get on stage. Get comfy, please. A round of applause for our lovely demonstrator. Okay, thank you. My name's Emily. I'm one of the co-producers of this show.
And I'm Amanda, another co-producer. And then we also have Monica here with us today. Woo, Monica! And John in the back on the ones and twos. And then all the way in Austin, everybody say hi to Blair on the stream. Hi, Blair. We love you. We miss you. Welcome to GUST. We are so happy to have you in the audience join us for today. You are such an amazing part of this show because the audience at GUST is just so welcoming and warm. And who is anyone's first time today? Oh, yeah. Woo! Welcome. If it's your first time, the cool thing about GUST is that, we got stories. You could be a writer. Anybody can be a writer. You can be not in Houston and be a writer and submit. You email it to the email on the back of the program that I shoved into your hand because I was like, you want program? Okay, so the email's there. You can submit a story, and then on the same day that it's due, we have something called a reading party where readers come and we get to hear the stories out loud. And so the neat thing is we never have the person who's the writer perform their story. It's always somebody else out there, some other reader can come and perform. And so the magic is you don't know what it's going to sound like. You're like, oh, I wrote it this way, and it's going to be cool. And then you hear it, and you're like, oh, that is cool, but in a different way. So, yeah, welcome to GUST.
Thank you, Amanda. Just to recap a little bit, stories due on the first Tuesday of every month. Anyone can send us a story. If it gets accepted, we pay you $50. And on the first Tuesday of the month, also, we all get together and read them aloud. Anyone's welcome to come. The show is on the third Tuesday of the month. Okay, let's see. This is a live show. We can all hear you. It's one big open room, so please keep the talking to a minimum unless you're going to the bar to visit Jake. Feel free to do that during the show. Hi, Jake. Tip Jake well. If you need to do talking other than that, you can go down this back hallway and to the left. There's a back patio. There's usually cats out there too, so visit them and pet them. And that's where the bathrooms are as well.
And next month, we have the Best of show. So you'll notice on the back for the due date for the next story deadline is the February. And that's because in January, what we have going on is all the stories from this year that we co-producers decide that we want to see again. We'll have them performed again, and so that's a cool one to keep an eye out for. And speaking of bringing back old stories, we have merch. And we want, yes, thank you, Monica. We want to, look at that awesome merch. We want you to take it. Please take it for free. Free 99. And it's really cute merch. And all the merch. And the merch is references to stories from a long time ago. It's a piece of GUST history. So come and own it and take it.
Can you tell we want new merch? We're really trying to get rid of this merch. It's literally free. Come take it. It's Christmas time. You could give it to someone. Okay, should we start? Is it time to start? Yeah, what else?
Fundraiser.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so we're not quite ready to launch this yet, but we're going to start selling season passes for next year. So just keep an eye out for that on social media, or if you get our emails, it would be actually really helpful for us to do that. And it's a new thing. We've never done it before, so we're going to try it and see how it goes. So just keep an eye out on that. We're going to start selling season passes, and basically for like a month, we'll just see how it goes and see if anyone wants to buy them. That's it. Okay, now we can start. Okay, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. You're not going to see us anymore. You're going to see Astrid is your host. So let's bring her up with a big round of applause.
How you doing, y'all?
Yeah? Yeah?
Let me hear you say, eh, eh. Let me hear you say, oh, oh. Eh, oh, eh. Oh, give yourselves a round of applause. Wow. Thank every single one of y'all for showing up. And please take some time to explore the Continental Club itself, because it's a really historic building and there's so much here. And give them a round of applause too. Okay, we're going to get right to it. The first story is The Dough Scraper, written by Emily Hynds and read by Alli Villines. Go, come on up.
This is a story about the right tool for the job. I went to the dermatologist recently, and they have all sorts of tools, but this story isn't about any of those. At the dermatologist, I asked them to remove a skin tag from a sensitive area. Basically, it was on the very innermost part of my butt cheek, somewhere in between my vagina hole and my butthole. The procedure itself was a comedy of errors, and even though this story isn't about that either, I'll tell you a little bit about it. The dermatologist said no fewer than 4 times some variation of, "Gosh, what an awkward spot this is in." I had to lie on my back while several different people hiked up my undies, but let's be real, they gave me a wedgie. And they held apart my butt cheeks to locate the skin tag and then ultimately to remove it. I just think it's important for you to know the humbling sort of day I was having. I had to really set aside my ego to get through the whole thing, and I did. I tried to see the humor. I tried to be glad that I have the means to get this taken care of. I reminded myself that these are medical professionals and this is their job. I was well and truly taken down a notch. So just keep in mind, that's the level I was at as the real story begins. After the procedure, I was told that it would bleed a little and to keep the bandage on for the rest of the day. No further instructions were given. I felt optimistic. This sounded reasonable and manageable. It did not bleed a little, dear listeners. It bled a lot. I had to keep that bandage on for days. And this bandage was in such a place that it could get pee on it while I was using the restroom, and yes, even poop, if we're being honest. So I needed to come up with a plan. I thought about removing the bandage every time I used the restroom and then reapplying it once done, but remember the sensitiveness of the area and the very recent procedure. I really didn't want to be tugging at the skin down there more than needed. For perhaps the first time in my life, I considered how much easier this would all be if I had a dick. Now, here comes the part about tools. My husband bakes bread. He has collected many bread-related tools over the years. Most of these tools I don't have much to do with, as I do not bake bread. There is one tool that stands out, however, and I have sung its praises since I met it. It is called a dough scraper. It is a flat, rectangular instrument made of metal or plastic. The dough scraper does not only scrape dough, it can be used to scoop up chopped vegetables and easily dump them into the pot. It can be used to clean debris off a counter, just swipe things right into the trash. I have even used one to scrape ice off of the windshield. Every home should have a dough scraper, in my opinion. So naturally, as I contemplated how to protect this bandage from my own pee, my thoughts turned to the dough scraper. I could use it as a shield. I thought, we have multiples, so if I kept one in the bathroom for a few days, it would not be missed. I could use one of the plastic ones rather than the one with the wooden handle. That way, if I accidentally dropped it in the toilet, it would be less disgusting for some reason. It is also safe to put in the dishwasher, an important consideration. I had to keep that bandage on for 4 or 5 days, and the dough scraper stayed on the edge of the bathtub, within arm's reach of the toilet, the whole time. If I was out of the house and had to use the restroom, I held it until I got home. So as the holidays near, and you might be thinking of gifts, might I suggest a dough scraper? You even have options. You could get a nice artisanal wood-handled one with a metal surface. It will feel good in the hand and look impressive, but might I also suggest the less glamorous plastic option? Because some jobs require less finesse. Some jobs need a tool that will just get the job done, that can go in the dishwasher, or that can even, when necessary, just get thrown right away. Thank you to the little plastic dough scraper that helped me keep pee off of myself during a humbling, sensitive medical experience. I honor your service.
That was certainly food for thought. It was very stirring. Okay. Anyway, wow. Our next story, to save you from any more puns, is Hampton in a Suitcase, written by Pierre Echeverz and read by Tristan Flores. Woo!
of know you made it in New York City when billionaires start trusting you with their children and their dog. And somehow, at 20 years old, with a student loan balance that could choke a horse, I achieved this elite level of trust. Back in 2004, I was studying recording music at NYU because nothing says long-term financial stability in studying things that sound cool. That's how I ended up teaching guitar to the Rutenbergs. Now, if you're from Texas like me, the name Rutenberg sounds like a furniture store your aunt complains about uses weird Scandinavian wood. But in Manhattan, Rutenberg means Upper East Side Hampton's home, and an aura of money so strong that a dog had better hair than I did. Eric Rutenberg was in hedge funds, the kind of hedge funds where no one can explain what they actually do, but somehow everyone becomes rich. His family started Tennicum Corporation, which sounds like a company that makes titanium lunchboxes, but actually it made billions. And Perry Poltz, his wife, was a journalist and a TV anchor, smart, warm, intimidating in a I know every government scandal way. If CNN and Bloomberg had a babysitter, she'd be on speed dial. Their kids were characters out of a New York sitcom. Ethan, the oldest, was this adorable chubby kid who once told me with absolute confidence that he liked Super Mario because he has cool hash browns. He meant sideburns, but honestly, he wasn't wrong. Hash browns are cool. Jacob, the middle one, was a 40-year-old man trapped inside a 9-year-old body. After one of our jam sessions, he literally negotiated me from $85 to $100 an hour. A child got me a raise. That has never happened again. And then Noah, quiet, observant, gentle, the kind of kid who sits silently in a corner and absorbs everything like he's downloading your soul, which is very much his mother's son. Thoughtful, sharp, and probably one who will write a memoir one day. And then there was Hampton, the dog, the legend. A fluff ball of pure entitlement wrapped in arthritic hips. Hampton had the permanent expression of an elderly theater critic who has just seen too much. He was 30 pounds of judgment. So, one summer, the Rutenbergs planned a trip to Greece. They needed someone to watch their Hampton's house, and Hampton, the dog. I recommended my friend Carrie. Now, Carrie was brilliant, responsible, sweet. She looked like someone who would eventually become a lawyer. And she did. Back then, she was mostly fueled by iced coffee and fear. She goes to the Hamptons for her big adult responsibility. Day 1, hour 1, Hampton dies. Or at least she think he dies. I get the call. Pierre! Her voice is shaking like she's calling from a lifeboat. I think Hampton's dead. Now look, nothing prepares you for the moment. At NYU does not offer hedge fund dog death management 101. I ask, is he sure? She says, well, he's not moving. Compelling evidence. I tell her, okay, don't freak out. What did you do? She says, I didn't call them. Oh, fantastic decision. Never interrupt someone's vacation in Greece with a dog obituary. So she does the next logical thing a panicked 20-year-old does. She decides to take Hampton to the vet. But she has one problem: no car. This is the Hamptons, where everyone drives a Range Rover powered by organic kale smoothies. There is no Uber, no Lyft, no taxi from 1996 stumbling through. Just the LIRR, the Long Island Railroad. The train that exists so Manhattanites can cosplay as farmers for the weekend. So, Carrie, smart, educated Carrie, finds a small suitcase. Very, very gently places Hampton inside, zips it up, and drags him to the station. Let us pause. Imagine a 5'2" Fordham student in capri pants hauling a Louis Vuitton carry-on containing what she believes is a deceased dog. She boards the train, sits across from no one, trying not to look suspicious. She is sweating like she is smuggling plutonium. Then, a random Long Island guy sits across from her. He looks at the suitcase. Hey, what's in the bag? And Carrie, future lawyer, says the dumbest sentence of her life. Computer parts? He nods, accepts this. What kind? She panics. A Mac? Solid save. They ride in silence. 1 stop, 2 stops. Then suddenly, the man stands up, grabs the suitcase, and bolts off the train. Doors close. Hampton, the beloved senior citizen dog, has been stolen. Not by a dog napper, not by a villain, but by a random guy who thought he was stealing an Apple product. She calls me back. Hysterical. Pierre, he took the bag. I say, the dog or the bag? Both. I ask, was it zipped? Of course it was zipped. Well then, he doesn't know. There's a long, tragic silence. Then she says softly, what do I do? And I, a 20-year-old with no life wisdom, tell her the most spiritually irresponsible advice imaginable. Nothing. You do absolutely nothing, and for the love of God, if anyone asks, Hampton ran away. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how a billionaire's dog became the first recorded case of Grand Theft Auto Poodle Edition. For years, that was the story. Hampton ran away. Honestly, he deserved a poetic ending. Carrie is a lawyer now. The Rutenbergs are still powerful. I moved back to Houston and teach guitar to clients named Joaquin and Nico, who pay in Fortnite highlights and requests for the loud part again. But I still think about Hampton, the only dog in history to be kidnapped posthumously. A fluffy little Houdini who escaped life, then escaped a suitcase, then escaped the moral compass of a Long Island thief. And every time I see a dog in a bag, or on a train, or a panicked 20-year-old, I remember the lessons of that faithful summer that taught me. Never lie about what's in your suitcase. Never underestimate a chubby kid's wisdom about hash browns. And never, ever trust the Long Island Railroad.
Wow. That was a moving tale. It was packed full of meaty details. Okay, maybe not meaty, but anyway. This is awesome, y'all. Okay. Well, we're going to just keep this moving along because, again, we're trying to stop the puns, right? Anyway, this next one is called Read These Lips. It's written by me, and it's read. Please give a big hand for the reader, Ashley Galan.
It was the vagina that stopped me in my tracks. I was on foot. It was hot pink. It was also on a pole. No, not that kind of pole. A large cement light pole along the Flamingo Beach Walk in my neighborhood in Rio de Janeiro. It was also 2 feet long, spray painted merely alongside the outline of a large mouse labeled Clitter. I was amazed. Nobody seemed to mind it being there either. People jogging, biking, the unhoused who camp in the area, groups setting up mini barbecue grills, they all seemed oblivious. When you're in a new environment, your brain wants to make sense of things, find patterns, survive. One of my favorite professors used to say, "You are all nervous. You cannot yet see the shapes of the animals in the tall grass, but you will. You will train your eyes, and you will." This 10-month job in Brazil has been the most sustained period of self-reliance in a place without a decent grasp of language, without a local support network that I've ever had. So I was looking for patterns, looking for signs, friendly signs, anything to make the environment feel like I could make my way around, like I was a part of it. Street signs here have long Portuguese names that, like the streets themselves, curve and twist around. I don't know the jumbled names of most of the streets I walk along, and I don't know which ones are safest. And like everyone else here, I keep my head on a swivel, as they say here. But back to the vagina. Actually, vaginas. I have photographed and counted over 30 of them. They are friendly, symbols of triumph. When have you ever seen vaginas accurately and happily displayed anywhere in public? Vaginas with clitorises. Clitorises that are often portrayed as calmly smiling faces. You know, like the Virgin of Guadalupe. The one that gets me every time is on the entrance ramp of the local skate park. Everyone who enters goes over it. It's huge, beautifully stylized in dark pink, light pink, white. And the inscription, "Entre con coragem," or "Enter with courage." A pretty apt motto for a skate park. It's freaking brilliant. And nobody seems to mind at all. Wait, let me back up a sec. Do you remember back in 2020, all the rowdy graffiti around Houston? There was a lot of hullabaloo about some anonymous tagger putting a huge rowdy in all caps all around town. Someone started an Instagram account with photos of them and was actually kind of obnoxious, like a teenager looking for attention. These, different. Vaginas, cooler. And in comparison, way more subtle. They're not 6 feet tall, they're art. And you might think that these images, the fun of exploring and looking for them, that's the exciting part. There's more. There are tons of recurring graffiti icons throughout Rio. The sleeping wizard, the centipede, the giant eye. Buildings are covered with cryptic stylings. Well, there's this one that looks like Crooked Dick Dunn from Houston's Doomsday Wrestling. Eye mask, mustache, black and white horizontally striped shirt, holding a money bag that I've seen everywhere, all over the city. I took a photo of it a while back and sent it to our Doomsday Wrestling Facebook group. And shout out to Brendan Clements, by the way, for that character. Since then, those money bag holding bank robber icons became part of the landscape here for me, something I took for granted. I've seen tons of this figure all over the city, and many that have been there for some amount of time and weathering. In August of this year, after returning from another beautiful yet lonely weekend walk, I took a different way back and stumbled upon a utility box, recognizing instantly the pink and purple outlines and smiling face of another vagina tag. But there was another figure layered behind it in the same colors. And it was the bank robber, Crooked Dick Dunn, or as he is styled here, Tim Tim. Y'all, I damn near lost my mind. I think I even yelled, "What?" in delighted surprise. The graffiti was fairly fresh too. I decided that Vagina and Tim Tim were at minimum best friends, had done this together, and that they weren't the same person. The next day after work, I had a purpose to get outside. I went back to the 4 closest vagina graffitis I could find to search for clues. Y'all, for every vagina, there is a Tim Tim figure within a few feet. Every single one. Look, y'all, this past year and a half, 2 years, have been hard. Not just the challenge of this job, moving away temporarily to another continent and language, but knowing how much it can loosen what you think you have. Wonder what'll be left to come back to, and hope someone remembers your face. During this time, I lost my stepdad. I and my Doomsday crew and Houston lost Greg. And one of the best things about Greg and Doomsday was a bunch of nerds creating a mighty force of fun and togetherness and exhilaration and adventure against the world beating us down, beating all of us here tonight down. And I've been afraid to never find that again, never experience that feeling again, afraid none of us would, that we would have nothing left to fight back with. Y'all, there are some days that have been dark on the inside lately, you know? Not just for me, for all of us. Yet, some exhilaration and adventurous spirit was here, a continent away, a hidden in plain view evidence of nerdy best friends running around making art just because. And it made me feel good. But wait, there's more. I found more and more vagina and Tim Tim graffiti in other areas of Rio, by the North Zone University I work at, by Lagoa by Ipanema, near the hike to the 3 waterfalls in downtown. I even got my friend Joe on the hunt, and he found some too. Some of the images show them with a heart between them. Some are more subtle, where you have to look, say, across the street to find the match. Turns out there's only one graffiti paint store in Rio, Doña Bomba, not far from me. No doubt a hotbed of subculture activity. Here's the thing. I figured that Tim Tim had an online presence and found him on Instagram. He is at TimTim-RJ. Pretty neat, right? But none of his posts seem to show the ones he's done near hers, and most are from a few years ago. Have you tried searching for vagina on Instagram? Or vagina Rio de Janeiro? Yeah. So, one hot Friday afternoon in October, I side-quested to Doña Bomba, dressed in my most punk for, street cred. There was a 20-something kid behind the counter embodying underground coolness. I showed him some photos, asking in my most garbled Portuguese, "Sao amigos sim?" What ensued was a wildly fun conversation with him not wanting to share information, yet clearly proud and happy that his friends were getting recognized while very furtively sharing Instagram tags with me. Her name is I have waited over a month to look at vagina.vandal's profile. I imagine them slipping freely about in the moonlight, reflecting off Rio Guanabara Bay, laughing as they spray their designs, playing with colors on a merry subterfuge. I looked at Vagina Vandal's profile on November 30th. It didn't occur to me that she does her graffiti during the day. In retrospect, that does make sense. It's a recent profile. She follows one person and has 1,771 followers. Now, 1,772. It doesn't show all her tags, but in some of the posts, someone has taken a photo of her as she turns around, laughing while painting. She looks to be in her late 20s, casually dressed with a ponytail. As of this writing, today, December 2nd, I sent her a thank you message. And thank you, all y'all at the Continental Club tonight and online. Those vaginas, baby, now they're bringing joy worldwide.
Give her another round of applause. That was awesome. Thank you so much. Y'all, that kid at the spray paint shop, he really was. He was like, and I was like, you know these people, right? As I'm showing yet again somebody else, another stranger, a vagina picture. But he was like, yeah, they're friends, yeah. I mean, you know, and you could tell he was so proud of it. Anyway, oh yeah, like, they're like this. Okay. Moving on. The next story is, oh, Good Evening, Officer, written by Jay Hickman and read by Miles McMahon.
Should give a round of applause to Astrid's gloves. Have you seen those? Those are badass. This is probably an uncommon thing to hear and maybe an unpopular thing to say, but my teenage years were nearly perfect. My parents gave me plenty of space. I was a good student and I was tall for my age and fairly broad-shouldered, so there were no bullies interested in me. My only problem, if I were forced to identify one, would have been my older sister. We mostly had a good relationship, actually, when I started high school, because she was 2 grades ahead. She was great and quite protective of me. At home, however, we were very much the odd couple. I was kind of nerdy, very fastidious, while she was more freewheeling. I was very financially responsible as a lad. I carefully saved my allowance, and she did not. Whatever money she made, she spent instantly. And this created problems. She would frequently come to me for loans, and my parents would not allow me to charge her interest. So lending her money was a pain. After a few more times, I just said no, and she didn't care for that. In fact, there was more than one occasion when I walked into my room to see my miniature desktop Chubb safe broken into and empty, except for an IOU. My sister was punished, of course, and the money was returned to me, but still, it introduced an element of distrust into our relationship. Let's fast forward 3 years. I've completed my junior year of high school. I'm pretty sure I won a Most Improved trophy at some point in there, and we're about to embark on our family's summer vacation. Well, most of us are. My parents, brother, and myself are traveling to Oregon for some big family reunion, but my sister, now college age, she has summer courses that she simply cannot skip, so she's going to be staying at our family home by herself, while the rest of us are across the country. Immediately, I'm aware of the threat. But my parents, they seem quite at ease. The fact that their daughter, who dropped out of Northeastern in her freshman year because of partying, will be left at home completely on her own for a full week in the middle of the summer seems to cause not the least amount of concern for them. But I know better. Our house is about to become party central, so I have some serious work to do. I've got to find a way to protect my stuff. This will be a challenge. We don't live in Hogwarts, so our bedroom doors don't come with keyed locks or anything, just a standard doorknob with that little button lock on the inside of the room. And even if there was some way for me to lock my door from the outside, there's another problem. My room on the second floor is the only room with access to the stairway that leads to our attic. Before we moved in, the previous owners had built out this rather large attic space to be a game room area. It's got complete walls, a ceiling, carpet, electricity, all that. It's a great place to hang out. So my siblings and I would use it pretty frequently. But I've had problems with people traipsing through my room to get there, but I've been told basically, tough. So there's an expectation that I must leave the attic fully accessible to my sister while we leave town. But I have an ace up my sleeve. I do not care about this expectation. Further, I have learned how to unlock my door from the outside. I'll explain what to do real quick, shall I? Shall I? Basically, you have to remove the entire doorknob, but it's not that hard. You take a Phillips screwdriver, and there are two little Phillips head screws in the brass plate surrounding the doorknob. You just remove those. The outer part of the doorknob just pulls right off. You now have access to the locking mechanism. You can easily disengage it. You're in. So the plan was this. We're leaving for the airport on Saturday morning, and my mom and dad, younger brother and myself are finishing up packing and prepping. I zip up my suitcase and bring it down to the car. As soon as the trunk is closed and my dad has grabbed the car keys, I excuse myself to pee. I run upstairs, engage the lock on my open door, and then close it. I am aware that when we get home, I will have to rush back upstairs with the screwdriver to remove the doorknob, enter my room, and then reassemble the doorknob before either of my parents get upstairs. I figure there will be a big stack of mail or something on the kitchen table to slow them down, so I like my chances. Let's just fast forward through the trip. The four of us went to Bend, Oregon for a week, stayed in Sun River. It's gorgeous, highly recommended. Anyway, so now we're home. We pull up to the house on a Sunday night. I'm a mixture of smug, just a bit anxious. Need to move fast. Engine turns off. Trunk opens. I grab my suitcase, go inside. I drop the case at the base of the stairs, grab a screwdriver from a nearby drawer, and dash upstairs. I needn't have rushed. I arrived at the top of the stairs to find my bedroom with a very welcoming, fully open door. The lights are on. A quiet panic sets in. I enter and immediately understand what was going on for those three bears. I could definitely see where Goldilocks has been. There's a half-full drink in the nightstand. That hadn't been there before. The phone has been moved. There's some open letters strewn about my bed. I investigate. They are from my pen pals. I know. And my long-distance girlfriend. I go straight to the boxes in my closet where I keep secret stuff. They have, sure enough, been rifled through. My sister's not home conveniently, but I am seeing red. I run downstairs to my parents, and I wish to lodge a formal complaint. But they're busy going through their stack of mail, but I make my voice heard. I have been violated. My sister is a criminal, and she must be brought to justice. I don't exactly remember my mother's reaction, but I think it was something in the eye roll department. My father consented to come upstairs and see what the problem is. I pointed, I said, "See? a bunch of times, but he just wasn't getting it. He also told me it wasn't fair of me to block the only access to the attic, and that was not what I needed to hear. I was fuming. I went outside, not really knowing what to do, but I needed to let off some steam somehow. In the garage, I found an aluminum baseball bat. I went into the backyard and I found a tree. I took a few rage-fueled swings at it, but did not really enjoy the feeling of striking a 2-foot thick tree with all my strength. It wasn't providing the relief I'd been hoping for. I cast about, and my eyes fell on an aluminum bucket next to our garden. It was there for weeds or to hold rocks or something. It didn't matter. But I emptied it, threw it a few feet straight up into the air, swung away. Oh, now that's more like it. Every time I connected with the bucket, it would go flying 15 feet, 20 feet. When I would go to retrieve it, I would see this big old dent that I made. Very satisfying. Better than that, though, was the sound that rang out with each swing, that clang! It was highly cathartic. I think a few rounds with the old bat and bucket would have done the trick for me, but my mother's reaction spoiled the fun. She came to the back door to see what all the racket was. I saw her notice me and realize what was happening, and then I saw the look of disgust on her face as she shook her head and walked back inside without a word. I didn't like that so much. It caused the aluminum bucket playoff game to go into extra innings. I was at it for maybe another 5 minutes before my father came outside, but I wasn't worried about his arrival. My father was a very patient man and a good communicator. I knew he was there on a diplomatic mission, and it worked too. He let me know he understood why I was frustrated, and I believed him. He said that I would need to find some way to broker a peace with my sister and that he would help, and I knew he was good for his word. We hugged. I was feeling better. We turned to go inside when I heard a car coming up our gravel driveway, and I presumed it must be my sister coming home. And I agreed to let my father handle the first phase of these negotiations, so I was prepared to keep on walking. But then I saw a reflection of flashing blue and red lights on the side of our house. My father and I turned around to see 2 squad cars pulling up to our home. They came to a stop, and 2 officers got out of each car. This was basically half of my town's entire police department. The guy in charge takes a few steps forward and addresses my father. "Is this your home, sir?" My father confirms, "It is." Copper continues. "Has there been any trouble tonight, sir?" My father says, "Everything's just fine. And what brings you out this way, officer?" The head guy lets us know that they had received multiple calls reporting gunshots and some yelling coming from our property, and the neighbors were very worried. So the police came ready to neutralize some bad guys. My father gave a very polite short laugh and said, "I'm pretty sure I know what happened there." He explained that I and my trusty bucket was the source of the gunshots. The officer asked to see the bucket, and I provided it. He examined it and said, "Well, you dented that up pretty good." I sheepishly thanked him. The officer told my dad he wanted a few words with me, and we were both sort of like, okay. The officer pulled me aside and wanted to hear about what had preceded my baseball rampage. And without going into too much detail about how I had illegally locked my bedroom door from the outside, I explained that my sister had violated my personal space while I was away, and it made me upset. I'd come straight outside to vent my frustration. He offered some appreciation that I had directed my anger at an inanimate object rather than my sister, and I was like, Yeah. And then he told me to just keep it down or something like that. And that was it. They left. No charges filed. I can't remember what my mother said after my father regaled her with the end of the story, but I'm pretty sure she made me a big pancake breakfast or something. No, I'm just kidding. I got the silent treatment for a week. But my sister and I did indeed find a way to bridge an accord in our relationship. I don't think she learned anything about respecting personal boundaries for many more years, but I immediately learned to find better hiding spots for my stuff. So that helped a lot. Also, if you ever need to borrow a Phillips screwdriver, just let me know.
Whoa. Wow, that was amazing. Ooh. That was a reassuring sound. That story was full of arresting developments. I know. Okay, I might break this. All right, we're about halfway through, a little over halfway through, so let's get some energy. To announce our next person, can we start with like a slow, kind of just, there we go. Yeah, now we can go a little bit faster. A little bit faster. Put your hands together. Woo! Yes. It is Mopar or No Car, written by Greg Schroder and read by Greg Cote. Woo!
Short King. All right. Muscle cars. I grew up on them, and when I became an adult, I was lucky enough to own some. I'm talking about muscle cars from the 70s, the golden age of American V8 engines. The Hemi, the Boss, the Super Duty, all legendary engines found in some of the most beautiful cars I've ever seen. My favorite muscle car was and still is the 1970 Plymouth Superbird. Longer than a Chevrolet Suburban, it was a two-door modified Roadrunner given a nose cone up front and 3-foot-high wings attached to the trunk. Its aerodynamics were ridiculous. The Superbird and its kissing cousin, the Dodge Daytona, absolutely ruled NASCAR in 1969 and 1970. So much so that the owner of NASCAR, Bill France, basically outlawed winged cars after that. If you've never seen a Superbird, you know that it's the most unmistakable, most memorable car you will ever see. If you haven't seen one, go ahead, do a quick image search for the Plymouth Superbird to see exactly what I'm talking about. Fantastic. I was 12 when I saw my first Superbird in 1971. There was a bar on Telephone Road called the Satellite Lounge, and someone who drove a white Superbird was there pretty much every time we passed by. I didn't know what the car was, but it had the word Plymouth on its rear quarter panels, and I thought it was a fine car. So I called it the Fine Plymouth until I knew better. A quarter century later, I was in a position to afford a fine Plymouth. My wife humored me as I went to Mopar shows around the country. Mopar, of course, means Dodges and Plymouths. Those jealous of Mopar cars' success will tell you that Mopar stands for Move Over, People Are Racing. But don't believe them. First on the agenda was the Mopar Nationals in Pennsylvania. It was there that I first saw an actual Superbird on the road. In fact, I saw several of them being driven to and from the event location. It was all I could do to keep my rent car on the road. I didn't find the car of my dreams there, but a couple months later, 2 Superbirds were listed for sale in a newsletter. One was red and was in Illinois, and the yellow Superbird was right down the road in Alvin. We called the car's owner, but alas, someone from Richard Petty's organization beat us to the punch. So we called the guy in Illinois who agreed to hold the car for us while we drove up to inspect it. It turned out to be glorious. A perfect shade of red, a 446-pack engine, a manual 4-speed transmission with a Hurst pistol grip shifter, and more chrome in the engine compartment than I had ever seen. It took me all of 5 minutes to wire the asking price. I didn't even try to haggle. I had found my dream car, and there was no way I was going to lose it. Even though we trailered the car to Houston, this car was no trailer queen. I bought it to drive, and drive it I did for 10 years. And if you lived in the Clear Lake area, there was a great chance you saw me driving that big, beautiful bird. Even today, almost 20 years after I sold it, people still tell me about seeing that car out on the road. As I said earlier, my wife humored me in this. She did not see the Superbird the way I did until the first time she rode in it. We took the Superbird from our home in Clear Lake to Ellington Field for this air show. On the road, at least a dozen people honked at us and gave us the thumbs up as they passed by. After parking at Ellington Field, I told my wife to turn around and look. She did. And what she saw were 4 people taking pictures of the Superbird and many more gathered around it. She was amazed. She asked, does this happen every time I drove the car? I told her it was. She was hooked on the Superbird as me. One day, we drove to a local barbecue joint for lunch. While we were eating, an older man came to me and asked if the Superbird outside was my car. I said it was, and he congratulated me for actually driving it instead of keeping it locked away. Then he said that because I had bought the car for the right reasons, he wanted to share something with me. There was a guy in Louisiana that had the biggest collection of Mopar muscle cars and parts in history, and he just died. His kids didn't like that stuff, so they had no idea what all those cars and all those original Hemi engines from 1971 still in their crates were worth, and were selling stuff at rock-bottom prices. How rock-bottom? How about a 1970 Plymouth Cuda convertible for $4,000? Or a 1971 Hemi Charger for $5,500? Those cars are worth 50 times that today, but even in 1999, they were worth far more than those prices. The guy said he made a couple trips a month to Louisiana to buy stuff and would like him to pick anything up for me. I know what you're thinking. Greg, this is too good to be true. But the guy didn't ask for any money up front, so I gave him 3 cars I'd love to have. Total price for all 3 was under $10,000, which I didn't have to pay until the cars were delivered. I'd be careful, take it step by step, but who knew? Stranger things have happened. The man left a week later pulling an empty car trailer behind his station wagon. A couple days later, he called and said he'd picked up the cars, but the load had caused his transmission to blow. Could I front him $200 for the repairs? There it is. The ask. But he showed up with a Mopar key, telling me it was the key to a 1970 Cuda convertible I'd asked for, and it was a real Mopar key from that time, so I bit and gave him $200. I figured there was about 0% chance I'd ever see the guy again, but I figured that $200 wasn't all that much because you never know, right? A few days later, on a Friday afternoon, it was rainy, and the guy called and said he just passed through Beaumont with my car, should be Clear Lake by 5 p.m. I went home and eagerly watched the street, all while thinking there really is a treasure trove of valuable Mopars in Louisiana basically being given away, and I'm going to get some of them. You have to be kidding me. I was being kidded. Or so I thought. You see, the guy never did show up. Nor did I ever hear from him again. I had his phone number, but I never called him. I chalked it up to experience. But about 10 years later, I checked a few Mopar forums online, and guess what? It turned out the whole story was true. There really was a guy in Louisiana who'd passed away, and his children really did sell a bunch of valuable cars for pennies on the dollar before they finally figured out what they had. This was all verified by multiple car collectors. So what happened to that guy? Did he ever really have my cars? Did the family wise up before he could make my deal? Was there an accident or something tragic that happened to him? I'll never know. But I still have a Mopar key in my desk somewhere, and there just might be a 1970 Cuda convertible that it fits. Thank you.
Wow. Uh-oh. Oh, keep on trucking, right? Wow, life isn't a race to the finish. Oh, shit. I'm afraid. I know what y'all said, but I'm making it smaller. That's not the first time I've said that. God, okay. That's neither here nor there. Anyway, y'all, there's such a beautiful energy here tonight. So give yourselves a round of applause. There's all these random conversations that keep happening, and people are sharing like what brought them here tonight, and just thank you, all of you. You're making a huge difference, and this energy tonight is really, really cool. The next story is Widow's Weeds, written by Ann Christensen and read by Mariam Zakaria. Woo!
The oft-quoted Polonius in Hamlet lectures his son. The apparel oft proclaims the man. This means something like, you are what you wear, or do judge a book by its cover. While Polonius is probably not the most reliable narrator, he had a point. I had assumed that the adorable, if diminutive, vintage suit that I wore in 2019 to my husband's memorial service made me. It was a slate gray belted dress and a jacket from the 50s. I bought it the year before and had worn it once to a work function to great acclaim. The volunteer who rang me up at the cottage resale shop in Montrose brightened when she saw this outfit, she explained, had been in the honeymoon trousseau of one of our board members' mothers. In the dressing room, to say that I strained to zip it up would be an understatement. I had to not only suck in my gut, but bend over in unglamorous contortion. I failed. I bought it anyway. I don't know whether the previous owner sported an hourglass figure or a girdle or both, but I could not get this fabric to cinch. That's where the jacket comes in. So as long as I keep it on, my rib cage and surrounding flesh remains concealed. I later added a hole to the westernmost edge of the belt. The ensemble is fetching. The day of the funeral, my 3 still growing sons performed their semi-annual dress clothes swap, each one handing the other the next size down the line until everyone was reasonably clad. We had one of their dad's jackets altered for one son. They wound up pulling it together and looking sharp, notwithstanding the odd wrist or ankle bone poking out from under the cuff. The uncles had to step in for tie-tying. I was hopeless there. As for emotions, we kept it together reasonably well, though there were probably some exposed bones there as well. Because of the ever-present threat that my left flank might pop out with a broad arm gesture or even a sneeze, I kept the hand-talking moves to a minimum. Arguably, our mourning clothes assisted our composure. They set my sons and me apart, as was right and proper at such time. Clothes do so much cultural and personal work. They are also bound up with memory. In the case of my grieving family, clothing circulated in gestures and transfers that were embedded in memory and love. My suit, from a mother's trousseau to her daughter's charity work, to thrift store, to me. My son's jacket and pants, from father to son, brother to brother. The hands that touched the fabric along the way, from the tailor sewing the jacket to uncles tying ties, and my sister heroically trying to zip me up. Writing about reused clothing, a cultural historian notes, a network of cloth can trace the connections of love across boundaries of absence, of death, because cloth is able to carry the absent body, memory, genealogy, as well as literal material value. But I worried that May after the service, would this suit forever be linked to that saddest of days? I thought I could never wear it again. I did wear it again, though, a few years later to speak about grief again. In the spring of 2022, I was invited to present the keynote address at the fundraising luncheon for Beau's Place, the support organization where my youngest son and I participate in group sessions after his brothers left for college. He had just turned 16, and he drove us on those weekly trips to the site on Buffalo Speedway with his learner's permit. Anyhow, I wore the outfit to the lunch and gala and made it part of the show. I addressed the grievers and donors gathered that day by first telling them the provenance of that suit. I walked around the podium with a faux fashion show spin. My talk today begins with this fabulous outfit. You can just see that bride in her new dress, white gloved hands, clutching an overnight case, ready to take the first step into her married life. I told them what I told you about wearing it last at the memorial service and wondering, if it was not forever tainted by that sorrowful day for me, would it seem tacky to others? People would remember, she's wearing that outfit again? Or they'd think I'd got all Jackie Kennedy in Dallas. Poor thing, she's still wearing that suit? This past Halloween, I tried it on with a pillbox hat thinking the marvelous Mrs. Maisel. But it didn't feel like a costume. Plus, it left no room for me to eat any treats. It still felt like my own thrifted clothes I'd worn while my husband was still alive, if also apparel that played a particular role that day. My widow's weeds, to use a term from the Renaissance. This morning, as I prepared to address you on behalf of Beau's Place, where many of us have cried, I looked into my closet and thought, why let this darling suit languish? I heard my husband answer, heck yeah, wear it. These are the kind of people who will get it. Certain memories and objects and feelings can be stored away for periods like off-season clothes. Others remain alive with everyday use, to quote Alice Walker's iconic short story of the same name about family members' attitudes towards an heirloom quilt. The stitched together cloth endures whether revered in a museum wall or at the foot of the bed. Now, some of the men at the little liberal church we attended inhabit my man's clothes again. Joe wore a striped button-down on Easter. John beams when he shows that he's wearing one of his concert t-shirts. My tall Norwegian neighbor who comes over when height is needed for some home maintenance, he gets the Beto shirt. When my son was here last, I found the black Fender t-shirt in the wash. Inhabiting the clothes of a loved one or seeing them worn again reconnects our loss, memory, and love. Heck, I might just bring that dress out for the holidays again this year. I'll skip that second cup of eggnog, though.
Yeah, and definitely, I think we want to see you do that too. All right. We have come to our last story tonight. So, without further ado, it is called Our Healthcare System is So Fucked. Seriously. I'll let y'all applaud for that before I announce it. Yeah. Right? It is written by Connor Clifton and read by Chuck Vaughn.
Hey. Page is out of order. They gave me permission to take my time. Some days, it feels like having health insurance is all that matters to me. I've left steady jobs over the lack of quality medical care being included in the benefits package. I've agreed to a pay cut just to keep my insurance plan. When getting ready to leave one job for another, I make sure I have a 90-day supply of medicine to tide me over until my new insurance kicks in. I've made several life decisions based around this. I never took that all too common risk of leaving home and setting out for a coastal city because it's wild to me to strike out without a job with insurance lined up. Besides, my medical team is here in Houston, and it was hard enough to find doctors that worked for me and my needs. Why try and start that process over? It makes sense for me to live like this. I'm a cancer survivor with one kidney, gout, type 2 diabetes, Meniere's disease, hypertension, high cholesterol, and I have occasional digestive issues that make it painful to sit up for weeks at a time. I take anywhere from 8 to 10 pills a day, some of which are completely unaffordable without insurance. Some of them are expensive even with the reduced price that insurance offers me. I'm one of those people that hits their deductible every year, and that's when I can finally schedule those more expensive exams. Deductible day, as I call it, is like a little reward. Oh, did you attend all your PCP specialist appointments? Did you go through the expensive gauntlet that is a colonoscopy procedure this year? Well, now you get to have that pelvic ultrasound for free. I've had bouts with being uninsured. Either I lose a job or I'm working several jobs, none of which make me eligible for full-time benefits. I know all too well the flood of relief that swells in your heart and soul the moment that you are finally insured. I also know the heartbreak when you find out it's not enough. I've secured specialist appointments out of town only to arrive and find out that while the doctor did accept my insurance, this doctor was out of network, hence the unaffordable bill. As hard as this news is to receive, I know that it can be difficult to give as well. In my 20s, I worked in a call center for Baylor College of Medicine, scheduling appointments in the neurology department. I dealt mostly with older patients who had Parkinson's or multiple sclerosis and were struggling with finding the proper balance of gabapentin and their preferred painkiller. But occasionally, I dealt with young mothers who were scheduling appointments for their kids who were dealing with grand mal seizures and epilepsy. These mothers, it was always mothers, called in trying to get an appointment, fully prepared for the familiar refrain of, our soonest available appointment is in 6 months. They seemed happy just to get an appointment for a change. But some mothers never got to that point. Before we could schedule you, we had to run your insurance. The passing of the Affordable Care Act opened several pathways for the uninsured to get the health care they needed, assuming your doctor of choice would even take the health care plan you selected in the marketplace. Most Baylor doctors would not even look at the ACA plans. That included the entire neurology department. The ACA mothers were never prepared for what came next when I ran their information. I'm sorry, ma'am, but we unfortunately do not accept that plan. However, you're still welcome to pay out of pocket. They'd always push back, understandably, never taking no for an answer when it came to their child's health care. I don't understand. I have insurance now. We pay hundreds of dollars a month for this plan. Yes, but Baylor, unfortunately, will not accept these plans. We always had to use that word, letting the mothers know that we knew how unfortunate the whole situation was, but ultimately we couldn't do anything. We never offered them a solution or alternative, no matter how much they begged, cried, cursed, or threatened us. Whenever I had to take these calls, I thought of my own mother, completely unprepared for having a 2-year-old with cancer, trying to navigate the already labyrinthine system of the American healthcare system in 1992. My father would be working, and it would be up to my mother to call the insurance company, call the doctor's office, call the insurance company back, try to negotiate a price reduction, then call the doctor's office again for confirmation, all the while having to simultaneously be a loving and playful mother to a 2-year-old who had no frame of reference for what was going on. Thinking of this unseen labor that seemed to be universal would be an emotional gut punch every time. I would have to clock out to cry in the bathroom or parking garage. I would think about how helpless these mothers must have felt when we got off the phone, sitting in their shame and rage over how our conversation went. I didn't blame them, not one bit. It was easier than I thought to hear them yell on the phone because I knew what they were going through. I was just as furious that I couldn't help more or offer any tangible solution. I was not long for that job. It seemed that more and more families were getting ACA coverage, and we had to reject them all. No one really seemed to care about the patients we rejected because we were so inundated with calls that it seemed easier to forget about a patient the moment you hung up the phone. However, I brought those rejections home with me. I let them weigh me down when I would be out with friends. I remember them to this day. I remember struggling with staying professional, unable to offer true empathy since I would not be able to give these mothers what they truly wanted: quality care for their kids. I wanted to find some way to bill the appointment to a wealthier patient with better insurance. I could find someone with the same name and maybe dupe the system. Or if that didn't work, I bet I could convince the hospital administrators to make exceptions and accept ACA coverage for minors. At the very least, maybe we could go off script and offer patients alternative solutions for care, providing a list of Houston area doctors that would accept ACA coverage. But we couldn't do any of that. If I wanted to keep my job and thus my own insurance, I couldn't do anything other than follow the call center script and get off the phone. It was all just so unfortunate. Thank you.
Yeah. Y'all, please give a round of applause for every single reader, all the writers, to yourselves. Yeah. Those moments that stick in your minds over and over, those are the ones that are worth writing down. The things that make you feel, those are the things that are worth sharing here, too. And I know that there's a lot of people that are here for the first time tonight. There's a lot of people returning. But whatever those moments are, please write them and share them with us, because we all grow stronger. Thank you all so much for coming tonight. It's amazing to be back in Houston. Thank you. And please go out, be safe, take care, and have a wonderful holiday. Thank you.